Is it?
Right, we are recording.
We good on TV? All right. We'll have the public hearing, all budget related, to start. I've got a few notes to go through related to it, but all persons are reminded that this session is being recorded on tape for the preservation of records, and you're asked when called upon to give your name, address, and interest in the matter before the council. Those matters are discussion of the constant yield tax rate, discussion of Ordinance 531, an ordinance for the levy of taxes for the fiscal year 2020, which begins July 1st of 2019, discussion of Ordinance 532, which is an ordinance to adopt the annual budget of the town of Hampstead for the period of July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and a discussion of the Resolution 2019-01, a resolution regarding water rates, which will remain flat. So I got about a page and a half of notes, and then anybody wants to chime in, feel free, but also doing this for anybody out there and watching on TV as well. And we're spending your money, so it's important that we go through how it is we're spending it. So basically, the goals are fiscal sustainability and resiliency. We want to minimize the impacts of any potential state and county government cuts, which what we experienced the last time we had a recession in 08, 9, 10, 11. Eventually the economy will turn south, and we have to be ready to sustain our government during those periods of time. Our priorities as far as funding and priorities as far as projects for the town, I don't think they've changed very much over the years. For the next couple of years, is going to continue to be Main Street. North Carroll High School, though there's not a lot of money in here for this, we'll spend time and effort on it, which is the adaptive reuse of that property. Business retention and development, safety related to our police department and the funding there too, and then retaining our small town charm, all the priorities above, keep the small town charm, keep us safe, keep us a great place to raise a family, and affordable. So the different components that I've broken out in the notes are the taxes, the constant yield. We've advertised in the Northern News and the town website that we're maintaining our tax rate at 22 cents per, I guess that's $1,000 of assessed base. That results in if we kept the tax rate based on the taxable base of the town the same, our tax rate would have dropped by 2.9%, but we kept it at 22 cents, so we enjoy rounded $40,000 in extra revenue related to the increase in property values as a result of a rebounding economy. That 22 cents compares with Manchester at 21.6, Sykesville at 35, Tawnytown at 37, and Westminster at 56. The last time we had a tax rate increase was in 2016. We raised our rate from 21 to 22, and it was 2002, the last time before that, when I think we increased it another penny or two. I can't remember. We have a business personal property tax, which is set at 55%. Comparisons there, Manchester at 46, Sykesville at 88, Tawnytown at 80, and Westminster at $1.10. That brings in some, compared to the property tax that the residential base pays, it's relatively minor. The amusement tax is set at 7%. The other big piece of our revenue money is the local share of income taxes. So when you check that box, we put it every year in our newsletter, but when you check that box that you live in Hampstead, that makes sure that a piece of that tax you pay down to Annapolis comes back here. And it's directly driven by the amount of money that people make and the amount of tax they pay as a result. So that is estimated to have $905,000 for next year, which shows a 4% increase from budget year to budget year. It doesn't really compare to, I guess, 2 years ago, it was about $840,000. So we can see the economy's good, and the people of Hampstead in general appear to be doing well. But that's a significant piece of revenue. When you look at our property tax, I think it's $1,375,000. So that's a lot of the revenue that we generate. Other revenue, we have the Highway User Fund, which is at $245,000. Historically, from 2006 to 2009, we were at $293,000. Starting in 10, it was reduced to as low as $24,000, as Jim pointed out in our budget workshop. In the last downturn, O'Malley cut that, and it averaged about $40,000 from 2010 to 13. So being back up to $245 is good. But we're still 16% away from getting back to where we were back in I guess, what you would call the good times. But basically, when you fill up at the pump, some of that tax is supposed to come back to Hampstead and the local roads. And it was basically sacrosanct. It wasn't touched until the O'Malley administration, when we got hammered pretty good, which was the result for some of these bonds that we did when we floated for paving. Program open space, we've budgeted $100,000, which is basically a carryover from last year. The project will be completed by the end of September, first quarter of the next fiscal year, so we had to carry that forward because we have to spend it in order to get it back. Carroll County overlapping service fees is set at $364,000, which is a 3% increase over this current year. That basically, so if you live in town, you don't get double taxed by the county and us. There's an agreement in place that a certain amount of money comes back to us for that fact. Cable TV franchise fees, first time ever, but we're starting to see a little bit of a decrease in that. It's $50,000 going down to $45,000, and 2 words: cord cutting. It's starting to come to fruition. Revenues budget to actual 18, for next year, $3,333,000 basically, versus $3,091,000 back in 18, which is 2 years ago. You back out the program open space grant funding, which is pretty uneven year to year. Some years it's 0. We rotate with the other towns in Carroll County, but it's a 2.2% increase budget to actual the last fiscal year that we have completed. Budget to budget, 20 to 19, it's a 4.1% increase. So overall, the revenues appear stable, and that's a good thing for everybody. Expense side of things, we've got 22 employees with 2 open positions, so it's a total of 24, which represents no increase year over year. Last year, I think we had 3 open positions at this time. We'll close them up in a hurry, both in the police department. Basically, employees are going to get a 3% general increase, which is in line, as I understand it, from other towns and counties. However, due to increases in funding by the sheriff's department and the general positive economic environment we find ourselves in, we reserve the right to increase employees to retain key personnel, which can be a challenge in a 3.6% unemployment environment. So we always evaluate and reward our employees accordingly. Some of the bigger contract items or expense items that we have: trash and waste removal, which is $328,000. We're in year 2 of a 5-year contract with Hughes, which will give us some certainty in trash removal costs for next year and the next 3 after that. Turf mowing is at $49,000. We're in year 5 of that contract, and Kevin tells me that's going up. I wouldn't doubt it when we bid it out next year. One thing I want to point out, stormwater management. National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, NPDES for short. One of those things you never think about when you get elected to public office, and the watershed implementation plan and all these things. So basically it goes to stormwater runoff and the quality of water from the stormwater runoff. And the Clean Water Act that the EPA instituted, I guess, back in the 70s, and people were finally getting serious about. Maryland may be a little bit more serious than other states. But I went back and looked. It's an unfunded mandate, basically. But I went back and looked from 2011 to 2015. We spent anywhere from $26,000 to $42,000 on wastewater, stormwater runoff, that kind of thing, stormwater improvements to our system. In 16, it was $108,000. 17, $101,000. 18 and 19, about $124,000, and we budgeted $147,000 for 2020. We're partnering with the county to meet these goals of improving runoff by 20%, then 40%, then 60% over a period of years, and we're getting through the first phase of it. That's low-hanging fruit. Every step you take after this, it becomes a little harder and harder and harder to do, and read more expenses as a result. But basically, that's almost $50,000 that we've suffered an increase in costs for something, and we've offset that by a few things, which is good. One of which was chemicals in the water system. They're down a little bit because of a new contract that a new supplier that we found. We saved about 15 to 20% there, but that's like 10 grand or 15 grand compared to spending 150. And the solar array that Wayne was researched and we finally got going is cut electricity costs that we incur in running our pump houses significantly. We save about 35%, and hopefully that number continues to go higher. On the water side, there's no increase in water rates. We're currently, I think, on par with the other towns in Carroll County. We've increased our rate 8% for years in order to catch up to all the capital expending we had to do, and I think we're finally there. Our water fund does owe the general fund about $500,000, but that's down from over $1 million at its worst. So the water fund's supposed to pay for itself and not rely on property taxes to fund it. Water leaks, with the new pipe that we've got running on Main Street, that's paying for itself. Basically, we're running as an efficient system as we've ever run. What we pump is what we bill. There's very few leaks, and we have some new technology that when we do have leaks, we catch them very quickly. Water, so I already talked to you about the chemicals in the solar array. That's the water side. We've got a little bit of debt out there that we've incurred over the years, very manageable. We got a paving bond that we let in '05 that pays off next year, $600,000. I think it's got 40 left on it. It was a 15-year bond. We got a $500,000 bond that we did in '13 when all the state highway money was at its low ebb. We're in year 7 of 15 on that. Street lights that for Main Street are currently in process. We're about halfway funded on a $651,000 bond. So we're in year 1 of 15 on that side. The North Side Water Tower by Walmart, we're in year 19 of 20, hard to believe. Only one more year after next. That was $723,000 that we let in '01. And then the water line, which is by far the biggest one we got, which is $2.9 million, we let that in 15. We're in year 4 already. It's a 20-year term, but it's a 50-year amortization repayment schedule. The last one lasted 85 years, so there's no reason that over 50 years. We don't want to put the onus on the people who are using the water system in the short term when it's such a long-term asset. So that's the reason for the extended amortization period. Overall, I feel pretty good about the budget. It's positive. It's been much more positive than it's been in the past. Residential sales are occurring quickly and at pretty, as near as I understand it, at, asking prices, which indicates a pretty strong market. The foreclosures that we were clogged up with a few years ago have pretty much run their course. We're getting a little bit of new residential development. Melanie Acres Northside Estates and the Westwood condos, which will increase our tax base slightly over the next 2 years. Hampstead overlooks at least 3 years out before we start seeing any addition to our tax base from that property. Expenses are always a challenge, but we analyze them carefully. And overall, we're a small town. We're just a reflection of the overall economy, which is based on property and income, property taxes and the income that you earn. So when the market's good, we see a more stable environment. When it's not so good, it's the opposite. But I think for the next year or two, it should continue to be pretty strong. So that's my comments on the budget. Questions? Comments? I know I run through a lot of numbers very quickly, and I try not to sound too accountant-ese, but there's no other way to do it.
I do have a question.
Ms. Holly?
Yes. It is with the water tax.
You got to come up, state your name, address, all that good stuff.
Holly Ortel, Hampstead, Woodsman Drive, Hampstead, Maryland. I'm a little confused about the whole water tax thing.
It's not a tax. It's a water charge.
Okay, so is it going up 10%?
Flat.
Or flat 10%?
No, it's not going up at
Okay.
all. It is zero.
Okay, so how are we going to keep it at zero? It's going to have to,
I am hopeful that things continue to progress as they are. There's a few larger expenses that we've got to do yet. But in a low interest rate environment, the one big expense that we've got to go through, and I could have gone through the capital budget, I guess, which we'll go through in a little bit. But the last big unknown out there is there's still some older pipe out there in the ground which connects to Main Street we've got to take care of. I think, Kevin tells me we should wait until after the Main Street project. I'm like, just throw it all in there and get it all done. So that's in a to be determined column, but that'll be bonded. And
Okay.
basically, it'll be bonded at about the same time that the water tower runs off. So there should be no, net, it should be pretty close to zero as far as the outlay that we incur. And so
Okay.
hopeful that water rates are set for the time being and stay where they are for the time
okay,
being.
I've heard different stories, so I wanted to clarify that.
Well, you've heard it now, the real one.
Right on. One other thing, with Hampstead Overlook, where is it now? Is it in the county or?
No, it's in the town. What do you mean, the
Okay.
plan?
Yeah,
Oh, it's in the county. They're working through I think the finishing up the concept comments that they have. My understanding is possibly they're coming in here in July for the concept plan approval. Then they've got to go through preliminary plan approval, final plan approval. The earliest they'll be moving dirt is next spring, assuming everything goes according to plan. And then the soonest there would be a house built is, let's see, so that's the spring of '21. So that, so that's going to be, 2021 before we start seeing houses being built on that property.
okay. Is it in planning and zoning with the county right now?
Yes.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, thank you.
You want to go through the capital budget or just wait till the meeting?
It's up to you, boss.
We'll wait till the meeting. People will be staring at ceiling tiles at that point. All right, I like this stuff. A lot of people, not so much. All right.
Just
Any
need
oth-
to remember when we go to make the motions that we need to do a
Yes, and a
replacement.
Yes. Any further comment, questions, anything at all? If you think of anything between now and the end of the regular meeting, feel free. So we'll close the public hearing and flip over to the regular meeting. Please rise for the prayer and pledge of allegiance. Just pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Tammy.
Mayor Nevin.
Here.
Councilwoman Duff. Here. Councilman Renahan.
Here.
Councilman Rourke.
Here.
Councilman Thomas.
Here.
Councilman Unglesby.
Here.
Minute approvals from May 15th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Tammy. Staff report, manager report,
All right, for our
Main Street report.
Yeah, Main Street. Town staff attended the 22nd monthly partnering meeting on May 16th, 2019. And in addition to our monthly meetings, town staff meets with State Highways Project Manager and CJ Miller Superintendent every Monday morning to discuss the Main Street project schedule and updates. During the next month, crews will continue to install the curb and gutter they're going towards north of Matthews Tire on a northbound lane. Then they will pour the sidewalks on the same side. After this work is finished, the town will install the new clock, which was donated by the Hampstead Old School alumni. It'll be placed by the War Memorial. But we obviously want to wait till the sidewalks are finished and before we install the clock.
So are they changing the popcorn material that they currently have at the War Memorial, or does that stay the same?
Only two, I think they're taking out,
But the impervious?
Almost the face of the.
right, they have to take out some to make the sidewalks ADA compliant, but they're leaving a lot of the cobblestone right in the
Is
War
that what you call
Memorial.
it, cobblestone? All right. Small, pebble-sized cobblestone.
Couple,
Very small.
doubles.
The retaining walls south of Jiffy Mart at 1133 and 1139 have been removed in preparation for new retaining walls installation. Footers will be poured this week, then the brick and block work will begin next week, weather permitting. The low-pressure gas line has been installed, and the crew is finishing the service connections north of 482.
So that means the high pressure's done too?
Well, the high pressure has been done. So the low-pressure line is finished, and they're finishing up the service connection, so that crew should be off the street.
So we're down to one crew after August.
Well, not necessarily one crew, because we have stormwater, sidewalks, lamp post, but we'll have one crew off the street. Another crew off the street. Stormwater infrastructure work has been completed up to Houck Avenue, and they're hoping to have the stormwater infrastructure work completed up to 482 by August. Right now, the project's running smoothly and on schedule. The State Highway Construction Manager said that part of the reason that the project is going so well is that the town is in constant communication with State Highway, CJ Miller, and town residents. He also thanked us for management of questions and complaints and not sending everyone straight to State Highway. So thanks to all the town staff for their hard work, because I was surprised to hear that a lot of towns don't do that. They say it's a state highway project and won't assist with any questions. So I think that was very kind of them to say that. For our water tower painting project, the Panther Drive water tower painting project's finished. Our inspector reported that the evaluation of the work indicates that the requirements for technical specification, the paint manufacturer and industry standards were all followed. Based upon our inspection findings, they estimate that the town should not need to perform remedial work on the exterior of this tank for the next 18 to 20 years. Town Hall received a lot of positive feedback about the repainting of the lettering of the North Carroll Panthers on the tower. And if you noticed this weekend, also there was a lot of positive feedback on social media about the renovation of the Panther statue on the North Carroll High School sign facing Route 482. The repairs were performed by Commissioner Weaver and his wife, so that was very kind of them.
Just to follow up on the North Carroll Panthers lettering, the paint was donated by one of the guys who was in on the bidding who didn't win, right?
No,
No.
he was the PP&G paint representative, and he attended the pre-bid meeting, and he graciously had PP&G donate the red and black paint for the town.
So it was turned into a, thankfully, it was cost-effective and at that point, a no-brainer to put North Carroll Panthers back up. And it definitely can see how it was faded over the years because it's a lot bolder and easier to see for miles around and been very well appreciated by everybody.
I think so. That's why when we put the bids out, we put a separate line item, hoping that we could put the letters back on. With our finance department, our budget workshop was held on Thursday, June 6th at 7 p.m. The FY 2020 budget will be presented for approval later in the council meeting. Cheryl is currently working on year-end closeout and preparing for our financial audit. For our North Carroll Business Park, which is north of Fuchs, currently the county is in the process of relocating the sewer pump station from the front of the property to the rear. Then they will construct the entrance road so Carroll County Economic Development can begin marketing the property. We've also had some potential commercial development discussions. Town staff has had several meetings over the past few months with a commercial developer that is interested in business projects in and around Hampstead. We will have more details to share if or when these projects move forward. And just talk about the new smaller businesses that are coming into town. If everybody saw, Michael's Steak and Lobster House restaurant in the Robertsville Shopping Center was supposed to open on June 4th, but they're waiting on one final inspection by the county before they can open. So hopefully, they're hoping within the next 2 weeks. They are taking applications for new employees. And then the Pipe-A-Side Brewery hopes to open their business in the suite next door to them by the end of the year. Someone had just asked about Hampstead Overlook. Florida Rock and Morris, Ritchie and Associates have been working with the county on stormwater management. They submitted revised stormwater management concept site plans to the county on April 10th and hope to obtain approval from them in time to request approval from our Planning and Zoning Commission at the July 24th meeting. And that is the one thing, the county comments on our site plan, but stormwater is the one thing that they approve. We have given authority to them to approve our stormwater because they have more expertise. Melanie Akers, Dan Staley at DRS and Associates informed us that he hopes to present the final site plans for introduction at the June 26th Planning and Zoning meeting. The federal government's conducting their 2020 census. Carroll County is assisting municipalities with providing required information to the U.S. Census Bureau. Each municipality must have a designated representative on the 2020 Census Complete Count Committee. I attended the kickoff meeting and outreach training, and then the assistant zoning administrator attended the webinar on the Census GIS area mapper. The actual census data gathering from residents will not begin until spring of 2020. Collected data will be presented in a report to the president by December 31st, 2020, after which it will then be released to the public. This data determines how much funding we receive and how we are represented in the state and federal governments. And they made perfectly clear that this information is confidential. They do not collect Social Security numbers. They do not collect that type of information. It's just when they report the information, it's aggregate information that they report, and it is confidential. And every federal employee that works for the Census Bureau has to sign a contract that they cannot talk about any of this individual information. It has to stay confidential for 72 years, which is an estimated lifetime of an individual. Even when they retire, they can't talk about one individual. They can just share aggregate information.
As Tammy said, we need a good head count.
Oh,
We
yeah.
need to keep that income base very stable and show Hampstead for what it is.
And there was an article about the meeting in the Carroll County Times today.
All right, oversights. Miss Farmer's Market, back up and running.
Yes, and it certainly is. The first 2 weeks have been amazing. We've hosted over 1,000 more customers than last year already, and we're averaging 32 vendors. An inspector from the Maryland Department of Agriculture visited this past Saturday to check the storage and labeling of all eggs sold at the market to make sure they were in compliance with state standards, and all our vendors did very well. We're experiencing huge amounts of activity on the market's Facebook page, largely because we have encouraged vendors and customers to like and share our market posts. one exciting thing, well, a lot of exciting things, but we're extremely excited to add Hampstead's own Galloping Goose Winery as a vendor beginning this Saturday. Diana had indicated that she has a gentleman who will be able to man her table every Saturday except maybe one during the summer. So we're very excited about that. We have a weekly customer raffle. It's beginning to gain some momentum, and folks are enthused about entering each week. Prizes are donated by participating vendors. The Markets Advisory Team met last night and approved donations to National Night Out, Auto Solutions making strides against breast cancer golf tournament, and music in the park, and we are still solvent even after that. August the 3rd will be our main event for the summer, as it marks the beginning of National and Maryland Farmers Market Week. We're planning cooking demonstrations and hopefully a visit from a representative of the governor's office. And I would be remiss if I did not express heartfelt thanks from myself and Sharon to the following folks. We have amazing advisory team members. Sharon and I just don't arbitrarily and capriciously make decisions. Councilman Wayne Thomas has done an amazing job with our signs and making sure they're placed properly. Those big 4x8 foot signs that you see around each end of town is the responsibility of Wayne, and he's done a tremendous job with that. Danette Campaneschi is our public relations volunteer. She's in charge of all events calendar entries, any news releases that you see, and a lot of our Facebook posts. Larry and Caroline Foreman are our vendor representatives. They're brilliant business people, and they have a lot of great ideas. And Keith and Lois Johnson, our customer representatives, and they have their ears to the ground regarding any customer concerns or issues that we might encounter. We also want to thank Kevin Han and Michael Harris of the Public Works Department. They did an amazing job on opening day directing traffic in the parking lot, as our market customers were sharing space with alumni of the Hampstead School who were attending their reunion. And Lorena Vicar of Town Hall, who has already facilitated the execution of the Memorandum of Understanding that will allow the market to relocate to the Joseph A. Bank parking lot during Carnival Week. So the market depends on the unselfish dedication and support of all of these people, and for that we are truly grateful. And that's it.
You've taken it to the next level.
So many people to thank.
Yep, as always, good job. Wayne?
Thanks.
The Hampstead train station is now open for the summer. We're usually open Saturdays 9 to 3. This past Saturday, we had our first music in the park. It was Hickory Wind. It was fairly well attended. There was less than 100 people there, but it was a really nice event, nice weather. Really enjoyed it. We changed it this year from one night a month to 2 nights a month, the second and 4th Saturdays of the month. Coming up for June 22nd, I have this wonderful band called TBA.
I've heard they're good.
They are very good. We are working on a band. Carol Gorsuch has graciously offered to help me out and has suggested a few contacts in today's email, so hope they have somebody booked by the end of the week. On July 13th, we have All About the Memories. On July 27th, we have Scribe. On August 10th, we have Music by Just Us, which is a local band headed by the former mayor of the town of Hampstead.
Mr. Kaiser?
Lou Kaiser, yes, sir. And then August 24th, we have the ever-popular Bootleg. And then on September 4th, we've got a group called Foggy May, which is out of Westminster. So I'm looking forward to a good summer. I'd like to thank the sponsors we have so far. Of course, the Hampstead Train Station Committee, the Town of Hampstead, a Work in Progress Studios, Carroll County True Value, CarQuest, Hampstead Auto Parts, Pipe the Side Brewery, Beaumark Electric, and now the Hampstead Farmers Market. We still have a lot of bands to pay for and a lot of advertising to pay for, so I'd like to encourage some of the local businesses to make contact and respond to some of the outreach that we've done to try to get some funding for the music in the park. Moving right along to the Tree Commission. Tree Commission met and we worked on a brochure. We came up with a Celebrating Trees brochure. This is not the color version. It's being printed up now, but what we're proposing is for people to purchase trees to celebrate the lives of people they've either lost or grandchildren or new babies. We've come up with a fee structure. These trees will all be planted at Panther Park. And so we hope to have these done and out around town and at various spots around town by the end of June. We are going to have a couple of tree plantings early in June up at the same park with the same theme. They're memorial trees. And that's all I have. We are planning a fall planting, and I've just talked to Councilman Unglesby, and it looks like we might be planting more willows on Willow Street in the fall. So,
Very good. Thank you. Jim?
First time in over 4 years, I have nothing. Planning and zoning, last time, nothing on the local agenda, and there was nothing on the county agenda. So we got our Main Street update, we had roll call, we had no public comment.
You called it a night.
Yep, and I went back and listened to the recording just to make sure that I didn't miss anything. And the length of the recording was 5 minutes and 38 seconds, and I think that's some sort of record. But I know we'll kick it back into gear next month.
Yes, you will. This month.
This month, yes.
Joe?
The only thing I have is we're in the process of finishing up the basketball court at Hampstead Panther Park, and we picked the paint colors. It's going to be, again, the theme of red and black, predominantly red. The inside of the key for you basketball players, inside of the key is the inside the foul line. That's going to be black and white lines, so it'll go really, really nice with all their exercise equipment. So the date of the painting, do we have a date yet? Do you know?
I don't think she has a date yet.
Okay.
They were,
It's coming up in the next,
The blacktop had to cure 27 days.
Yeah.
yeah, so it was a,
so I think, what do we got, like about 2 weeks in the can already on that? So it's about 2 weeks, I think. So that's all I got.
Okay, good. Dave?
Okay, on the historical oversight, I talked to Kevin the other night, and we're going to start putting the water piping out to the historical graveyard site. That'll be done within the next few weeks to provide water. And tomorrow evening, I'm hosting some people from College Park. They're going to be out to help me actually plan the site. We're going to do some sketches, and they're going to get me a nice site plan, and we can set up what we're going to be able to do, you know, over the next few years to bring the site together. So I'm excited about that. Water concerns. May 2019, average water usage was 355,000 gallons per day. June 2019, average water usage so far was 425,000 gallons per day. Rainfall total for May 2019 was 5.9 inches. Rainfall total so far for 2019 is 0.1.
That's different. All right, thank you. Chief Snyder?
It's cold tonight, I have to use the microphone. Last time I did this, I think I broke it, that's what the tape is. If it's not too late to put a new microphone in the budget, I don't want to mess things up here. During the month of May, our traffic safety efforts resulted in 86 citations and warnings issued. We investigated 11 crashes, 4 were on the bypass at the 482 circle. We conducted 359 patrol checks of businesses and 70 school checks. With reference to serious crime, we investigated 1 assault, 1 arson, 2 DUIs, and 3 thefts. We also took into custody 11 adults. 2 juveniles were charged as well. Charges ranged from DUI, assault, theft, several school bus violations, and serious traffic offenses, 1 arson, and a violation of a peace order. May was a big month for training for us. A lot of state mandated things took place. I mentioned last month briefly, and Officer Cranshaw received his official drug recognition expert certification this month, or actually the end of last month, and he began this month actually functioning in that capacity. That's a big deal. I bring it up again. To put it in perspective, it is a 2-week class. The final test is a 100% test is required, score is required. 99.9 doesn't cut it. It's not a passing score. It is quite an accomplishment for Jonathan. And again, to put it in perspective, he is one of 3 people in the county, 3 police officers that now have this designation. And just this week, we've used him at least twice on it. It's a big deal. Lieutenant Gagler and Rob Orm completed their CPR certification, and that was done actually in-house for the first time with our own Clint Thorne. It was his first class. They passed. Everything went all right. We didn't break anything, and it was a success. As I said, this was a big month for training. We are required to, every year, make sure that our officers require at least 18 hours of state-mandated training to maintain their certifications as police officers. Within that combination, the state sets a series of standards of certain classes that we have to have every odd year, every even year. It's a whole different combination. So for the month of May, Officers Cranshaw, Orem, Harold, Thorne, and Vanek were all able to complete our state-mandated required child abuse, sex crimes, cultural diversity, victim and witness assistance training, as well as Officer Cranshaw also squeezed in his CN2 refresher course. What that refers to is that's basically a certification that we have to maintain so that we can run tags, run people to see if they're wanted. It gives us access to the national computer. Rob Orem also completed FTO school. We timed that so that we have a series of field
FTO.
training officers. FTO, field training officers, I'm sorry. So we're able to train basically our new recruits that will come back to us the first week of August. With reference to community policing, I attended the homeowner association meeting for North Carroll Farms, as well as Roberts Field. I also attended St. Mark's. They invited us to the First Responders Appreciation Service back on the 5th, I believe that was. Myself and Officer Vanek attended the Criminal Justice Club out of Carroll County community. Every year they have an annual award ceremony. We submitted 2 names, Jonathan Cranshaw and Officer Vanek, and they were recognized for actions that they had taken in the previous year here at Hampstead. And Lieutenant Gagler assisted with the Safe Kids Day, as well as attending the 5th Annual State's Attorney's Drug Overdose and Prevention Vigil during this month. That's everything.
Thank you. Questions?
Questions?
Thanks, Chief. My comments, guess we were one day post-election in May's meeting, and we're on TV tonight, and I guess we've had some spirited to entertaining meetings here in the past when we've been on TV, but the election went off, for the people sitting up here, obviously very well. I'll just tell you that Dave and Jim and myself are very grateful to the support that was shown us, and we're going to work very hard to make sure we continue to earn your support as we move forward. It's been a busy couple of weeks with, the farmers market opening, the Hampstead Old School reunion. They come back every year on the same exact day that the farmers market opens, but it's great to meet, or well, basically with me, see those people every year and relive some of their experiences growing up in Hampstead, which was a far different place in the 40s and 50s and 60s than it is today. But they come back every year, and it's great to see them. We're going to be at a Carroll County, Maryland Municipal League meeting on Thursday in Mount Airy. We do that with the Frederick chapter, so we'll be down there. I think we've got to elect some officers and move people around for those positions in Carroll County. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be down at Ocean City at the big Maryland Municipal League conference in Ocean City with all the other politicians from every small town in Maryland. So, and the assistant town managers and the town managers and the assistant planning and zoning administrators and the planning and zoning administrators, you name it, police chiefs, they're all there. So lots to learn and lots of people to talk to in that environment. So then hopefully things slow down a little bit starting July 4th weekend. I don't think there is any unfinished business. Under new business, we had the presentation of 2 town scholarships, which was also something we've done in the past. I was fortunate enough to go to the Manchester Valley graduation awards ceremony where we presented 2 $1,000 scholarships. And this year's winners were Brianna Bush and Rachel Snyder. Now, Rachel's here, Brianna's not. Brianna's going to go to Gettysburg College and eventually wants to be a veterinarian, and apparently she's quite the soccer player based on what I know or what we've read. But and Joe helped me with this along with Mrs. Cunningham, one of the guidance counselors from Manchester Valley. But Brianna wrote this nice thank you note that, dear Mayor Nevin and council members in the town of Hampstead, I wanted to thank you for the honor of receiving a scholarship from the town. I know it will assist me in reaching my goal of graduating from Gettysburg College. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend the town council meeting as I am out of town celebrating senior week. However, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you again, Brianna. So then, and just back from senior week is Rachel, and she's in the audience, and I'll call her forward in a minute, but she's headed to Towson University, and let's just say it's quite a story that Rachel wrote in her letter. One I have not seen, nor had Joe, and quite frankly, after this, it was a pretty easy choice. So 683 hours, 28,000 days, and 78 years. On average, that is all we get before we're dead and gone. So that caught our attention right out of the chute. On February 21st, 2003, my father was killed in a car crash that left him far short of his deserved 78 years. Alcohol was my dad's murderer. I was only 2 at the time. Now I am 18, and I found this void has tainted everything in my life. Besides the inevitable heartbreak, grieving, and longing that comes from a little girl growing up without her daddy, his absence has created severe financial stress that is impeding my ability to chase my dreams. My father never had a chance to live to the fullest, and because of that, I've made it my personal mission to make him proud by maximizing my own life. Had he not passed, he would not have been here to celebrate my first lost tooth, to see me off to high school, to help me afford my college education. I'm headed on the right path to make my career possible, as I have been accepted into the Honors College at Towson University of Maryland. Towson offers a prestigious clinical speech-language pathology program that will prepare me in obtaining my SLP license. I have always had an innate drive to help others, and SLP offers a lifetime chance to help those who struggle with language and communication. My current internship at 2 elementary schools is allowing me to uncover my true passion for this field, and I cannot wait to pursue this career at Towson University. My father had no life insurance. His death placed us a huge financial burden on my family, and it is unlikely that I can afford my education on my own. Being one of 4 children has meant my family cannot assist in paying for my education. Despite holding a job since I was 14, this money has been directed toward easing the financial burdens of my family. I have always known that I will need to pay for my own education, which is why I dedicated myself to volunteering and to my studies since I was a child. So it was quite a letter. She served as the Vice President of the National Honor Society, the Chair of the Academic Committee, Team Captain for Relay for Life, Secretary of the National Honor Society, just a few, and maintained a 4.47 GPA, coming in 7th in her class. So I have no doubt, Rachel, that you're on the path to success, and we wish you every success, and we hope this scholarship helps with that in a little bit. So if you wouldn't mind coming forward. Now, you already got one of these, so we got it official. All right. Town of Hampstead Scholarship Certificate, we'll send $1,000 directly on to Towson. But we are especially proud of Hampstead young citizens who lead by example, which you certainly have, and set high standards for other young people to follow, setting goals and standards for oneself and achieving them is a true inspiration for others. So we put it there. Congratulations. Good. Thanks again. Good luck with everything, all right? Mom, you gotta be proud. All right. Back to business. We have the approval of a deed transfer parcel B for stormwater management facility in Oakmont Overlook or Oakmont Green?
It is
Overlook from Hollyland Partnership to the town of Hampstead.
So moved.
Second.
Tammy, further explanation, please?
Well, as I mentioned before, the county manages the approval of our stormwater facilities in our residential, well, in our business, but in our residential site plans. And it is a federal law that government, local, county, maintains the residential stormwater facilities. So what happens when they're constructed by the developer, the county will maintain them and make sure everything's working properly for 2 years, and then the developer then will transfer it over to us to maintain.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you second that.
Me or Joe, either one.
Take your pick.
Thank you, Peg.
Next is the reappointment of Cole Brown to the Hampstead Ethics Commission for a term of 3 years, which would expire in June of '22.
So
Make a
moved.
motion to make a reappointment of Cole Brown to the Town of Hampstead Ethics Commission.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on Cole? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, Cole, come on up. And he looks so dapper.
I tell you.
What are you all dressed up for?
Getting sworn in. I told him what was up. See you, thank you.
Should walk around the yard in underwear.
I, Coleman Brown, do swear or affirm
I, Cole Brown, do swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
I will support the Constitution of the United States.
and I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland.
I will
Be faithful.
be faithful and
Bear
bear
true
true
allegiance
allegiance to the state of Maryland
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof.
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality and prejudice,
execute the office as a member of the Ethics Commission
execute the office of the Ethics Commission
of the Town of Hampstead,
of the Town of Hampstead
according to the laws and Constitution of the state.
according to the laws of the state.
There you go. Close enough. Good. Thanks for stepping up.
Does it need to be signed?
Signatures,
Blue ink.
blue pen. Sign the one that's in your book too.
Want a blue crayon?
Hold on, of course I get a blue pen,
Got
it's
some
not
finger
writing.
paint. Probably do pretty good with fingerprints.
Eventually, we're gonna need fingerprints, 20-year background check.
Is your blue?
Here.
It's blue.
Mine's not writing very well.
It's blue.
Mine?
Yeah. We'll keep that one, this one will be better.
The lefty.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks again, Cole, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Other new business? No, we're on. All right, we're on a roll. Ordinances and resolutions all related to the budgets. Adoption of ordinance 531, an ordinance to levy the taxes for the fiscal year 2020, setting the rate at 22 for the personal property tax and 55, was it, for the, 55 for the business personal property tax.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, adoption of ordinance 532, an ordinance to adopt the annual budget of the town of Hampstead for the period July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. There were a couple of changes to this one from what you got at their budget workshop. So based on, a lot of it based on what we were talking about on that
So we have to do.
hook lift, J-hook, what, we have to, J-hook lift.
Are all the changes on this?
All the changes are on this and this.
This?
I make a
And,
motion to adopt ordinance 532.
Second.
Second.
I make a motion to amend ordinance 532 from what was introduced last month to what we have presented as a draft based on our workshop.
Okay, and I'll just tell you, on the capital plan is where most of the changes were made. There is going to be a hook lift that we're buying for $182,000, which we're leasing for 7 years, because it's such an expensive piece of equipment. We spread it out over 7 years, even though it'll be around for a lot longer than that, so we're not incurring the cost all up front, and we're in a positive rate environment. So I put that on as a capitalized lease. There's a new line there for capitalized leases, which also cover the backhoe and the dump truck that we acquired last year, or this current fiscal year. So we can show the funding, and then there's the liability on the capitalized leases, and then the full funding's down there as a debit to your fixed asset. basically. And then the bonding got split out because the streetlights, we thought the bonding we would use all the $651,000 in fiscal year 19. That is not the case. We're using about a little less than half this year and a little more than half next year. So we split that funding out to show the effect of that. The other changes, let's see here. Something's going to happen with Town Hall. I bumped up the building improvements from 15 to 25 because we've got to look at HVAC, given that the one in here continually doesn't work too well. So we've got to look at that. And then with Main Street being done and the possible addition of a new employee, we've got to look at some things that we do inside of Town Hall. So I put in the to be determined column another $25,000. What else? Stormwater improvements are on here. This is another thing where watershed implementation plan, you pick it. But hopefully we don't incur this expense because Kevin is working in an angle. But we thought we'd be able to engineer a project for under Sycamore. There's a big stormwater management outlet, and we thought we'd be able to line it, and MDE would be good with it, our engineers would go with it. Well, they came back and said, no, you got to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, and F, and it added about $100,000 to the project cost. So that's why we're looking at other ways in order to go through with this project. But if it doesn't work, it's called DAM 505, and if it doesn't go through, it's $190,000 that at some point we have to expend to fix that and stabilize that pipe that runs under Sycamore, which is probably about 20 feet down from grade.
It's deeper than that, it's 35, 40 feet.
Yeah, so you ride over it, all the folks that live in Robertsfield probably don't even know it's there. So, and then the other thing was I bumped up the Main Street revitalization from 50 to 150, given I think that as time wears on, we're going to make some improvements to Main Street once it becomes ours, park benches and whatnot. You can see everything that's on there. The system improvements and the to be determined on the water side is particularly related to the lower Beckleysville water line and other 1936 piping that's in the ground that connects to the new piping that we still have to do. We'll figure that out in the next couple of years when we're doing there, but it's in there as a placeholder. And we basically have about a 25% reserve, which I changed from 20 over the years. We have about $1 million left over after you consider all these expenses that are out there, and our 25% reserve would show we should be at about $1.2 million. So we're pretty close, all things considered, and there's a big slug of paving that we can do a couple years out. We don't have that currently bonded, but we could, if the rate environment stays the way it is, we could bond that work, kick off a lot of roads, get a lot of things done at one time, and the one bond that we have will be gone by then. So we would just continue to replace that cash flow with a new bond and get a lot of roads paved, so which would benefit us for the long term. So they were some of the changes. Any questions related to all this? What?
I was wondering if we got a second to my motion to amend.
I don't know.
Second.
Take your pick now. I'm glad you're keeping track.
I thought about it.
Any further discussions on the budget? Any questions more out there? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That was easy. Thank you. Let's see, last but not least, adoption of Resolution 2019-01, a resolution regarding water rates, which basically keeps them flat.
So moved.
Second.
It's your bailiwick.
Dave,
I
I'm
thought
sorry.
you'd jump
Dave,
up.
I'm sorry.
I'm fine, I'm fine.
I'll take it back.
Little
I'll take
sluggish.
it back.
Yeah, it's all-
You know?
Good job, Mark.
Any discussion on,
We're good.
any discussion on water rates? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Public comments? Ms. Ortel?
Holly Ortel, Woodsman Drive, Hampstead. I guess this is going to be directed to you about your ethics committee. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. So there's some people that serve on your planning and zoning, some of the ladies that, were haters towards Zach and I, and really went around on Facebook and slammed us. I know that you were aware of it because you got an email from Zach about some things. So where does this come in with the whole ethics? We're paying you all, we're paying these ladies to sit up here and then to go around because they don't like me or they don't like whoever And to sit there and drag our name through the mud is unacceptable. Really unacceptable. They should not be sitting up here and getting paid if they're going to do something like that.
Noted. Ethics Commission, all right, so just because you serve on an Ethics Commission or as the mayor or on the town council, you don't give up your First Amendment rights. There's a way to go about complimenting people and there's a way to go about criticizing
Right.
people, right? It's not for us to say how you go about doing that. And the Ethics Commission is not there to legislate how people react to one another unless it becomes more physical in nature. At that point, it would spill over into a whole nother category. It's more there for financial aspects
Okay.
and conflicts of interest. So it's not there for what you're prescribing it to be.
Okay, well, then not even the ethics committee. You as the mayor, representing this whole town, all of us 6,000 some odd people that are paying these ladies to sit up there and have not, I don't care if somebody likes me or they don't. But when you sit out there and make slanderous comments, some true, some not so true, it's absurd. And when you run for politics, you open yourself up for scrutiny. I get it. I knew about it when I was running. But what they said and how they continue to do it is, it's like we have nothing to say. And, I want to know what you as the mayor are going to do about it.
I don't think it's my place to do much about it. I
You
think there
appoint
was,
them, don't you?
I think there was a lot, this is an election that, has been litigated. And I would say there was a lot of back and forth between both sides, unfortunately. But
We weren't in office, though. We're not getting paid
no.
by the townspeople.
Technically, everybody was running for office to retain office or whatever, but you're all running for the same position. While it can be upsetting, unfortunate, it can be part of the landscape. And I would, you harp on getting paid. I would view these people as more volunteers, given what they make, than anything.
Sure, I thought that
They're not sitting
you all were
here.
volunteers. I didn't know that it was a payable position
Yes.
until later on.
Yeah, I get a whopping $7,000 a year for this, and they get
Right.
three. So, but So it cuts into some of the expenses, but I mean, for the most part, they're volunteering their time, they're volunteering their expertise. I'm sorry that,
But they're sitting up here and making decisions.
but they're not making decisions where the way I can look at things, and we've made changes as a result. When I see people sitting up here, it's how they represent the town when they're sitting up here, how they interact with the people that come before them, and how they think about the cases and the reasoning they put forward to the cases. We've had some periods of time where that interaction, whether on the council to the public or on planning and zoning to the public, I mean, I can go back to the 90s with this, hasn't been positive. I would say in general, since we've been sitting here, those interactions in a public environment, in a public forum where they're in their roles, have been nothing but professional and nothing that would show ill light on the town in any way, shape, or form.
And I would hope that they would not, because they might not like somebody and they're coming in to do something with their property, or
I would
you
never.
know, I would hope that they wouldn't do that. But
I
I'm
would be
saying,
stunned if that was the case, and quite frankly, I don't think,
I mean, these
they would,
people
at
were
that
out
point,
campaigning with you, Mayor, okay? You knew what was going on. As the mayor, you had to know what was going on. If you didn't, you're turning a blind eye to it. And it just infuriates me,
There
the
was
way these people don't even know me as a person. And like I said before, you can get on case search and just make up stuff as it goes on, and that is not fair. And I was being attacked right and left, and you know it. You know daggone well.
I think a lot of it was
And they
going
should
back.
not be up here.
Okay. I mean, you stated your case, and I've told
Okay.
you, how we have to look at things, and it's in their role at sitting here and how
I
they interact
understand
with
about
people.
the First Amendment. I understand about all the amendments.
Okay.
That's my opinion. So thank you for listening.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right. Tim?
Tim Duff, Hampstead, Maryland. I just want on the record that the mayor knows nothing about Facebook, doesn't follow anything on Facebook, was positive throughout the whole campaign. I campaigned with him extensively. A lot of the stuff that was going on was on Facebook, and if you're not on Facebook, you're okay. That's it.
Anybody else? Doug?
Doug Harrell, 1611 North Main. The election's over. I think we ought to get this sore losing out of our system, get on with the work.
We're back to work. I think we're good. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Janet Jacober, Roberts Fields. I agree that we need to be adults, but the negativity that's still being put on Facebook needs to stop. And by calling them cronies, or starting problems by saying the water bill is going to be raised when it's not, and you're getting people upset, please have the facts first before you put it out there.
And that's why I asked.
Just don't put it on Facebook unless you
I
have the
can put whatever I
facts.
want on Facebook, kind of like these ladies did.
Okay.
I would rather talk than put on Facebook.
Hey, I agree.
Well, I'm glad you came to the meeting and asked the questions, and they were hopefully answered. Yes, sir.
William Farrell, Main Street in Hampstead. First, just one question. It was in the news this week that the Maryland Department of Natural Resources awarded 19 community parks and playground grants totaling $2.5 million across the state. Did we get any of that?
No, we didn't. It's not, in Carroll County, we have 8 towns, and in order to maximize the benefit, because all these parks cost a little bit of money, so there's 4 towns on, 4 towns off, and we're in the off cycle this time. So we get them every other year is the way it works. And I'm, as the president of the Carroll County MML, I was the one who signed off on them. And at each one of the towns, it was Sykesville,
Yeah, Sykesville got
Tonytown, Union Bridge, and New
Tonytown.
Windsor.
Yeah, they got like $85,000 each. Basically, every year, people submit their requests, and they're always through the roof for everything under the sun. And usually the number's about, 75 to 100 grand that we get the split. And the towns have been very good about it every year, and they just split it even.
Okay, so speaking about parks, it was over probably a year ago when I first spoke here at the town hall meeting. What I spoke about was the mud bog down there by, was it Rainman Avenue?
Reineman.
Ryman
Oden
Avenue?
Camp Park.
That was 4 months ago.
Yeah,
That was 4 months ago we were talking about that.
Yeah.
No, but when I first talked
Odom,
about
yeah.
it was when it was tore out and stuff.
Yeah, and we have the money allotted for that, and that's gonna.
So that'll be the
next
park
month.
that's finished by the end of September.
Yeah.
Well, see, because this is what I understood was the playground stuff was ordered,
Yep.
right? But how long ago was it ordered?
Last month.
Last month, and I forget there was an issue that, I
It
can't
had
remember.
to do with the funding. We had to roll it forward into this budget that they just voted on.
Yeah.
So that work will start after July 1, and that project should be completed by the end of September.
Because if we
And
started
so
it,
the stuff is being fabricated now, and that park will be done by the end. It had to
Yep.
be rolled over into this budget.
We already got the designs and everything, so it's already done.
The reason there was
Okay.
nothing there for a period of time was because I was told that the other stuff that was there, the playground equipment that was there had deteriorated to the point where it was a liability, so we couldn't just do one and then a day later put the new in.
Yeah, because I just heard today, I did a little checking around to find out what the story was, some guy down in China making it a piece at a time or what. But what I found out, the money was there, but then it was taken away because I had to go to another project.
No.
no, it
So
was,
that's not true then.
it's just we have to use that money in a budget year, and with our
Yeah.
budget year ending June 30th, we just couldn't get it completed. With the weather and everything, that we just couldn't get it completed, so we decided to roll it over to next budget year and wait until July to start it.
Okay, I'm just trying to keep you interested in it. Playground don't mean much to us old people, but the little kids, it's like a Disneyland in town to them.
It means a
Gives
lot
them
to
something to
us.
do.
Means a lot to
My
us.
kids play
Okay,
that.
thank you.
When it's done, they'll really enjoy it.
Yep.
Yes.
Safely. All right. We got a 5th comment, or 6th.
All right.
No? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Well,
Second.
Thanks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you all for being with us, and we'll see you in July.